Okay, so that video's done. Don't need to have that anymore. Let's see. Okay. Next up, probably a build video. Probably have a match for you to upload in there as well. Hey, Bran, are you ready to get back into some 2v8 Survivor? Survivor 2v8? Nah, I think I'm good. I'll pass. Oh, wait, there's unique roles for 2v8 Survivor. Doesn't that sound interesting? Yeah, aren't those just essentially just pre-picked Survivor builds that are slightly more potent than usual? Yeah, I think I'm still good. I got some work to do. But wait, there's more. Now we have, wait for it, fog crystals. Oh, you mean like from the Halloween event last year? Does that mean the void's back too? No, just the crystals. You find them through chests. Oh, yeah, that doesn't really sound all that appealing. Not gonna lie. Please, Bran, please, you have to play 2v8 Survivor. The queue times for killer are through the roof. I need you to play it right now. I'll get you blood points. You want blood points? I'll give you blood points. Fine, for sake, I'll play some Survivor. Holy these guys are kind of pushy, don't you think? Hi guys, Bran here, and welcome to the commentary video. We are standing today. I don't know why, I just kind of felt like it, so hopefully you like standing me, at least this time around. And we are back here again with 2v8, except this time it is version 4, round 4, whatever the heck you want to call it. Yep, this is the 4th time we have done 2v8, and we have added some more changes to it, including 2 new killers, that being Oni and Ghostface, and Survivor's getting a brand new item, that being the fog crystals. Well, kind of brand new, but not actually, if you really think about it. So did these changes actually end up saving 2v8? Let's go ahead and talk about it. First off, I would like to regale you with the tale that sets the stage on how we're going to move forward talking about 2v8 version 4. On day 1 of 2v8, I wasn't streaming on twitch.tv/TheMrHeadache. Thursdays I take off. On day 1 of 2v8, I was invited to play Siege with some homies, but there was a delay on one of them showing up, so I ended up playing 2v8 by myself on the killer end of things. So I queue up as Oni, which is one of the new characters, because I want to try out the new characters in 2v8, and the queue times are unfortunately just the same as they were before. I waited about 30 minutes for my first game, which was really arduous. I don't know, there's people on the internet who say now that they have like, oh, I never have long queues in 2v8 ever. I play killer and I only get 10-minute queues. I don't know what black magic seance you did to get that, but let me in on it, please. I would really like that. So after this long, arduous wait for a queue pop, we end up loading into RPD, and my rando teammate is a Wesker. I bet you can already see where this is going if you know about all the things in 2v8, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. So I'm out there, I'm doing my thing, trying to fill out the new Oni. Oni got a lot of changes that were positive for him, but regardless of them being positive changes, they do affect the way you play the killer, so I'm trying to feel them out and all that sort of thing. And then my Wesker teammate gets his first down across the map. It turns out the bug that was in the last version of 2v8, where Wesker can just get stuck after hitting somebody and downing them with his M2 and putting them up on his shoulders, has not been fixed in any meaningful way since the last time 2v8 was a thing. Yep, that bug is just untouched and is still in the game. So on my teammate's first down in the game, he downs this person, puts him up on his shoulder, and he's stuck there for the rest of the match. Cool, neat. And that also includes the guy, the Dwight, that he downed. It's also stuck on his shoulder for the rest of the match. They are no longer allowed to play, meaning that I am now playing a 1v7 after my 30 queue wait time. That's pretty cool. So the Wesker decides to DC out of that situation very wisely, but for some reason the Dwight does not, meaning that I cannot DC at any point during these shenanigans because abandon will not be offered to me even if we get all the way down to the end game. So as the game hits the end game collapse after all the other survivors escape, yep, we're still stuck here. And it's super fun and super entertaining to just walk around the map, trying to find literally anything to do while they're stuck up there. I literally weigh out the entire endgame collapse timer, and then still the game does not end. I guess something weird, the fact that because Dwight is technically still on Wesker's shoulder, that the instant cannot go grab him. So that's fun, that's great. The endgame collapse timer goes all the way down and nothing happens. I wait about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, still nothing happens. So yeah, I ended up DCing. But wait, there's more. Yesterday, before I actually played that game, I had to DC once because of a cheater using the you're not allowed to hook hack where you pick them up and then you just lose hook prompt from the rest of the game. That's cool. I had a DC for that. And then my game crashed while opening an exit gate on Survivor for no reason. But the game can't differentiate between bug, crash, or cheater, DC, or anything like that. So guess what? I got hit with a 15-minute penalty for that game. Isn't that lovely? Now, I've heard a lot about this on Twitter. It's like, apparently if I had supposedly waited 3 minutes, it would have been fine. And then somebody else was like, no, you should have waited 5 minutes and then the game would have actually ended. And there are some people claiming that that is just no longer functioning at all. I was about to take that bet, wait like 3 to 5 to potentially 10 minutes just to get out of this situation. I'm just gonna take the DC. And just like with a lot of things in the DBD community, the fact that there were so many dissenting answers to that question kind of airs to itself that maybe there's a lot of people wrong. So probably not following that anyways. So yeah, 2v8 is still pretty messy if you haven't caught on by this point. A lot of the previous bugs like the Wesker bug are still in the game. The one with Deathslinger where you harpoon someone and the chain just breaks instead of getting to reel them. Although I heard reports that entered 4v1 recently with the Ruella chapter drop. So that's cool. This is all undercut by a 30 to 40 minute queue time on average. I think my lowest was 15 minutes. I got a 15-minute queue one time, but most of them were 30 to 40 minutes. And it was pretty rough. I think all this underlines the fact that this is mostly good for one of two things. One, if you're a content creator and you need content, and two, if you just one fun night with the buds and you guys aren't too concerned with like watching a YouTube video in the background or something to do in between the queues. That's about it. I do want to return to the point that like if you were one of those people that somehow have found this magic sweet zone where somehow you only get 10-minute queues at best for 2v8, that's great, that's awesome for you, but that doesn't take away from the fact that most of us are still suffering through the 30 to 40 queue time. So let's not try to take away from the fact that that is in fact a problem just because you don't suffer from it. Thankfully, Behavior is trying to actually implement a way to get around this situation, that being able to play while you're queued and it'll hold your spot for 2v8, but that's actually slated for version 5, not version 4, which is the one we currently have right now. So until then, you're still suffering through an extremely egregious queue time for the killer role. In a 2.5-hour play session, I only played about 4 games total. And that was after that random match that I had that was really bad. So I ended up queuing with a friend for the rest of my game. So it wasn't even like the, oh, hey, well, we need to find somebody who's not playing you because we were coordinating the characters we were playing. This is the really sucky thing, which is why I feel so upset that I have to be so harsh on 2v8, is that when my friend and I did end up playing together, it was really fun. And we had a lot of really funny moments. She would be like calling out like, this person won't leave main building. They're just chasing main building. And I'd be like, okay, I'm on my way. I'm coming. And I'd like run over and down the person. And it's actually really, really fun. And like the experiences that it creates cracks me up. I'm sure you see them all over DBD, Twitter, and social media of just like people's really awesome creed shots of like them hanging out mid-Mori with their homie that looks really cinematic and cool. But like the in-between that you don't get to see is the 30 to 40 minute queues in between that. And it was just us just sitting there like watching our own individual YouTube videos, waiting for the queue to pop. It's just realistically not worth it to wait for 30 to 40 minute wait time for something that kind of like goes away in a flash. Perfect example of this is there was a match that we waited for 35 minutes. And because the team was relatively coordinated, I don't know if they were all grouped up or what, but they got the gens done around 5 minutes. So we waited 35 minutes for a 5-minute game, which is just quite frankly insane. Waiting 35 minutes for a game that's roughly half the time of a normal 4v1 match is it's just puzzling to think of a reason that I would intentionally ever do that. But the reason I ended up not putting out this video out yesterday, but putting it out today, is because I wanted to put some time into the survivor end of 2v8 to see if that's improved in any meaningful way before I decided to give any sort of thoughts, feelings, or takes about it. Unfortunately, over about a 5-hour play session, the gameplay on the survivor's end was kind of largely the same. The fog crystals don't really add much depth to the gameplay cycle, considering that they have no organic way to get them in the gameplay flow. You just have to go around searching chests until you eventually find one. Furthermore, most instances of these used in the games actually seem to hurt more than they help. I had a very funny moment where I was in chase with the Ghostface. I was looking behind me trying to get out of his way, and then somebody just threw a fog crystal midway and just confused me in the middle of my chase. It was really awesome. I really appreciated that. And furthermore, the new combo of Legion and Oni, at least for me, was happening every other game. Like most of my games were Oni Legion, and I get it. It's pretty easy to see the awesome synergy between those two characters. Legion gets pretty free injuries, which creates a lot of blood orbs, and then the Oni's constantly in his power for the rest of the game. It makes sense. But in terms of variety and enjoying myself on the opposite end, seeing the same two killers over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and especially on top of the fact that you don't really get a lot of agency over your build. The survivor role initially, even before 2v8, is just like sit on gen, loop a little bit, sit on gen, unhook, heal, sit on gen. It's like, that is not the role you want to be extremely monotonous, because it already is to some extent anyways. So if you take out another layer of variety, it gets far worse. At the end of it, I just felt like my brain was going to melt from the sheer repetition of it all. I think, unfortunately, the two core issues of 2v8 still remain even on version 4. That being number 1, queue times are extremely long for the killer role, and 2, Survivor just isn't complex or appealing enough to play outside of just wanting a blood point bonus. Like I said earlier, at least Behavior is going to address the longer queue times by allowing you to queue with 2v8 and play at the same time. But right now that is slated for 2v8 version 5, while we are currently stuck on 2v8 version 4. And the problem is with that, we can't really make any sort of calls about that. Everything is just speculation up to this point because it's just not out yet, and we won't know when 2v8 drops next. My thing is, I just hope it finally addresses this issue of these extremely long queue times, because once you're in that game, it's actually ridiculously fun, but it's just so painful to sit there for 30 to 40 minutes. Games that you could have played 3 to 4 games of 4v1 just to wait for one match that may go very quickly at the end of it anyways. It's just not worth it at the end of the day, and I'm getting tired of saying it. The second aspect of this is far more difficult. There likely isn't something you could do to make the survival role in 2v8 nearly as impressive or appealing as playing killer with your buddy. There's just not. However, they could try to make the Survivor experience appealing enough that it's at least appealing to play in the long term, because outside the blood point bonus, there's no incentive to do much of anything in the long term with the role right now. The roles are essentially just pre-chosen builds for you that have slightly more potent abilities. You can't bring items, you can't bring add-ons, you can't bring anything like that. The only way you can get items is through searching chests, which is already kind of mind-numbing, just like sitting on a gen is. Even adding the fog crystals didn't really add a whole lot of depth to this mode, considering that they're only sparsely available to begin with. There's just nothing on the Survivor end that matches like strategizing, playing Oni and Legion at the same time so you can get the most out of Oni's power. There's no like, hey, I'm gonna play Ghostface and then expose a bunch of the survivors and then have my Wraith friend come over and uncloak and hit all of them because it shares the expose. There's no like strategy. There's nothing like that scratches the surface of expression that the killer role has in 2v8. 2v8 Survivor has to have something that feels dramatically different to the normal 4v1 Survivor, something along the lines of the blood gen experiment, something that completely cannot be done in normal 4v1 mode. Furthermore, there needs to be long-term investment on their end, or something that they can work towards. Most roles that are currently in 2v8 can kind of basically just be done independently, and you don't really need to coordinate or strategize with any of your fellow teammates to try and get anything out of those roles. They just kind of go burr, for lack of a better term. Not to mention the current Survivor gameplay is just sit on gen, loop a little bit until the second killer comes over and double teams you, so there's basically nothing you could do to begin with, and then go unhook your friend and heal them real quick, but the heal happens in 2 seconds because if somebody has medic, they just go boom. So it's not really like you're spending a whole lot of time on that. So realistically, most of the time you feel kind of like out of control and kind of just autopiloting through the experience. These are honestly just the most bare-bone aspects of Dead by Daylight to begin with. It needs to be reversed into something that's dynamic, something that can only be done here, something that can be strategized, something that has some sort of long-term investment. And then this will in turn help the killer queue time problem, because if people actually love to queue up a Survivor because it's actually fun and engaging and not just chasing a blood point bonus, this will make things way better overall for the entire mode. However, the problem with this obviously is this is going to take way more R&R on Behavior's end, because up until this point they've just been kind of like tack this on, tack that on, tack this on, tack that on, and hope that version to version it will get better. This will actually take some time for them to rehab the mode a little bit, try to work something in that's new and fresh and dynamic, instead of just kind of like adding something slight on, but something brand new that's fully thought out. And that will take time and creativity to do on their end, and they don't seem to be interested in doing that right now because they just want to have a mode out every 2 weeks for some reason. We just gotta have a mode, gotta have a mode, gotta have a mode, gotta. But I honestly think at the end of this, if they actually took the time to give 2v8 on the Survivor side that R&R, it would actually solve a lot of their killer queue time issues just by having a wider pool of Survivor players that are actually intrigued and engaged with the gameplay. Well, not really a positive video to end off on here. A little bit more negative than a lot of our recent videos have been, so my apologies on that. But honestly, that's just me being honest about the current state of 2v8. Version 4 is not much different from version 3, and I don't mean that in a positive way. Like I said, hopefully the queue change coming in version 5, we're able to queue, hold a spot, and play the game at the same time will do a lot of good to resolve the pain point about the long queue times in 2v8. And I hope that Behavior takes the Survivor role and experience seriously in this mode and rehab it and reorganize it into a experience that's fresh and unique to 4v1. That way people actually feel compelled to play the mode instead of just being bargained and persuaded to by the blood point bonus. What do you think of 2v8 version 4? Are you a fan of it and think it's a big improvement over version 3? Or are you more like me where you're like, this is more of the same? And I don't mean that in a good way. on that's gonna be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching and spending part of your day with me. Hopefully I made that day a little bit better, but if I didn't, I have the chance to do so again in the next video. But if I do not see you there, well, you know, catchphrase and things. I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.